Hi, Paul Arnold here, sometimes known as Studying Professor, and today I want to talk to you about enhancing gravitas. And why do I want to talk about this? Because, in research it's been shown to be the number one leadership skill. And what do we mean by gravitas? Well, let's go back to its origins. It's the Latin roots. It comes from gravas, meaning heavy, and this sense of solidness about it. Now, if you have gravitas, and we've all seen it in other people, is, they just seem to stand out. They walk into a room and people turn and notice, and they get listened to, and they're respected, and they have impact and consequently influence. And the most critical issue about being a leader is that you are followed. It creates a magnetism. That means that people want to follow you. Now, I've seen a lot of what I call guff on the internet about building gravitas, and it talks all the normal things about your personal stature, and this idea about taking the Superman or the Wonder Woman pose, about sort of you fill the space when you walk in the door opens, you stand there, and this idea about taking an open pose, and to be a power dresser, you're dressed in your Armani outfits, and taking time, owning the time that this is my time. And being serious, being more statesman-like, making eye contact, very confident handshakes. Slowing down, this is my time, using pauses, deeper tone of voice, and maybe taking a helicopter. You know what? And they're all right, but they're all absolutely wrong, because they are suggesting that you just add these veneers on top, and I'm saying don't do that. All of this actually comes from understanding the fundamental roots that it comes from. And a bit like a tree, the fruit can only be real fruit when it's built from the roots that go deep down into the ground. And I want us to focus on the roots rather than this pretense that goes on the top. Don't do that. You'll be found out. Non-verbal communication, 55%, la la la. You will be found out. Don't do it artificially. Do it properly. And that takes time. And there are three fundamental things which are overlapping that I think you need to go and work on. It's about authenticity, it's about confidence, and it's about energy. And we need to wrap all those three things together. Now, the critical thing is that gravitas is not about you. So narcissists need not apply. It's not some big ego game. It's actually about this idea that how do other people perceive you? How is the impact that you have upon others? And actually a person with great gravitas has an ability to be there for others. And I really want us to focus less upon the power of you and more about how you use that strength to help others. And I think actually what we've got to do is always remember that lovely Maya Angelou quote, which is like, people will forget what you said. People will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. And this idea of taking this power and this strength and actually almost being servant-like, so we're not using power from above, but power from below, is a really important thing. To make other people feel special, make them feel listened, make them feel respectful, is the fundamental way that we build gravitas. Because we're not lauding in our greatness, we're serving through our greatness. And I love a great quote which I heard a grandmother say to a person. It said, be nicer than you need to be. Particularly in our current times we're in, we need to be more generous, more gracious, more kinder than we need to be, and that will always stand you in good stead. So let's just look at those three key things I talked about: authenticity, confidence, and energy. Authenticity. Look, you can't fake it. So I think you've got to actually work really hard to understand exactly who you are. And I think what you need to do is you need to go meta. So in other words, you need to see, how are you perceived? Because the way we see ourselves is very different from how other people perceive us. And we've got to seek feedback from other people, ask for the honesty. And we need to actually create the totalness and the wholeness. And a lot of the stuff we've got to do is not only recognize what our strengths are, but also come to terms with our weaknesses. And stop being in an internal battle with ourselves where we're denying some of those areas of weakness. Only when we take all of this stuff on and we accept our weaknesses do we actually become one holistic person. And rather than having the discordances within our body, we become one and become whole. And out of that, the fusion that creates an energy that just evaporates and just moves from outside of us. So owning all of who we are is a very, very critical state, because then we come to peace with who we are. And the other thing is, I really encourage you to live by your values, because you know, if you do that, you are absolutely consistent all the time, and trust comes from consistency. So in other words, we're not chasing after what other people think and do that stuff. We're saying, no, this is what I believe. You know, that great phrase, which is like, there's never the right way of doing the wrong thing. You must do what's right. And only then will you then be trusted and be respected. Now, how do we know what our values are? Because there's lots of sort of rubbish that people say what they are, but let's get in touch with what they really are. And I'll give you 3 very quick ways that you can find out what your values are. The first thing is, look at the past decisions you made within your life. All those past decisions you made in your life about what career you did, what you did at university or a college course, or what, all those other things were actually unconsciously driven by a value. So look at those things. What was the value that led me to make the choice to do that versus that? And the next one you want to look at is, well, what gets you really angry? Really angry. Because that is actually giving you a very clear signal about what do you really care passionately about. And the next one to really work on is, what are you embarrassed by? What do you go, oh God, did I do that? Because they actually help to uncover, where did you break your values? And those are 3 very powerful ways to help you really identify what your values are. And I think once you get to actually be true to who you are, then you become authentic. And you know what? Then those arrows of attack just pass on through you. Because very often we put up defense systems to try to protect ourselves from those inner hidden secrets we don't want others to know about. Once you have accepted and you admitted to it, you know what? The arrows just pass through you. It's a bit like in the Matrix, where the bullets are flying and you're just ducking and weaving. It's fine. You can say nothing that I haven't already worked out myself. And then people say, yeah, you know, he's true to who he is. As soon as methinks you doth protest too much, you think, what's that behind the mask? And we've got to get rid of the mask and be true to who we are. Let's move on to confidence. Confidence is, ultimately, we've got to believe in our own ability, because as I said before, the non-verbal communication, the 55% of all communication is going to be shouting out, he doesn't believe it, he doesn't believe it himself. And actually that's what we've really got to do. So we've really got to build our confidence and our belief in ourselves. And it's not just, you know, belief and knowing the stuff for that particular project you're working on, but it's a belief in who you are and the strength of who you are. And I want to talk with you about not an arrogant confidence, but a humble confidence. I want you to come to the place of confidence from a place of admitting your vulnerabilities and saying, that's okay. That's all right. Because it's actually out of that place of vulnerability that we connect with other people. And it creates that inner calmness as we're no longer in battle with ourselves. And we can be of service to other people. And that creates a gentle easiness we have with ourselves, and obviously a gentle easiness we have with other people. Still very confident, you know. And Joseph Henrich, a Harvard anthropologist, was doing lots of work at looking at different tribes and looking at the social structure, you know, within tribes. And he came across there were 2 different ways that people had this leadership quality. It was either through dominance, through strength, you know, sheer power, sheer sort of, you know, building it, you know, through fear or whatever. But the much more powerful one, which was much more longer lasting, was one which he called prestige. And this is one very much about honouring other people, working with other people. You know, that great Martin Buber thing of I, thou. You know, so if we can connect in that space, it's a very much more powerful place. And the book Compelling People talks about strength and warmth, that actually really powerful leaders have both strength and warmth. And actually when you read into the book a lot, that warmth comes through strength. It's basically because I'm okay about who I am, I've worked out who I am, I'm okay with it, I've worked out my strengths, then you can let go. We're not in a place of actually pretense and trying to over egg it. So actually that sense of letting go and being confident enough. So I've done a lot of work about circles of excellence, and I'll just recap it, but I think you got to build up your circles of excellence. This idea about think of past times you've been, that you've had the confidence, that you've had the belief in yourself, and you anchor it. So I use those two things, and I just that event, get in touch with it, anchor it, get another event, anchor it, get another event, anchor it, until you stack in one place lots of reference experiences. And I am, to quote that great phrase, from Carl Rogers, the famous psychotherapist, I am good enough. I don't want to be perfect. That's not humble. You are good enough. You can serve enough in this space. So therefore, what I want you to do is actually be able to be strong in who you are. And what you do is when you've actually built this confidence that goes deep down in the ground, as I said, what you do is you bring all that confidence into a place of actually being centered and calm and grounded. And you draw upon those experiences and you stand there and you just feel that power and that energy flowing through you. And that's then oozes out of you, in that aura that people sometimes talk about. And one of the things is you need to be in control of your emotions, and I think actually if you've done a lot of work upon yourself, very few things are going to really get through to you because you are calm. But there will be things that trigger you, so work out your trigger points, work out your basic ways that you then respond to that. And if you go into attack, and work out new strategies so you can pace yourself into the future to develop better strategies. So that if he says that, if that gets said, I will do that instead. Because we've got to be in control, because that shows you a sense of gravitas from just being able to be absolutely a master of your emotions. And that leads to the last thing, which is energy. And it's this, and I talk about the energy, this isn't a frenetic energy like it's a bam, 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 bam. It's almost like a nuclear submarine, deep hum of actually certainty, surety, calmness. They just you just feel it, you sense it. They don't need to talk about it, it's in their eyes, it's in the tonality. And that level piles on through, and there's almost that solidness that drives you on through. And that basically comes from having a clarity of purpose. Why is this thing we're talking about of importance to you? What's the bigger good it's doing? And what are the values that you are expressing through that? And why is that right for who you are? So I hope all that helps. I've done another video about emotional intelligence, which also helps to back into this stuff. And obviously I do a lot of work in this field. So if I can be of help in this area, then by all means, look at my details at the end of this video. But for now, be strong, be good, be of use. Take care. Bye.